Do you know the difference between being able to speak French and actually being exam ready? Most people think that their French is at B2 until they hear a C1 level word, and then everything starts falling apart. Today I'm going to give you a complete vocabulary assessment, 36 words, 6 levels and 6 questions each. We start at level A1, basic survival French, and then we go all the way up to C2. This is where TEF Canada wants you to be. So this is going to be a good test for you to see where you stand in the language. So here is what I want you to do. Grab a pen and paper, count your score out of 36 and comment your score at the end. I genuinely want to know where you are right now. Now here is the important part. In the description below, I have linked the free Frenchify beginner program unit 1 of our full A1 syllabus, completely free. Open that in a new tab after this video, you will need it. So are we ready for this test? Let's go. Quick reminder before we start, in this world of language learning, we use something called CEFR scale that stands for Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. It is the international standard used by every major language exam in the world, including TEF Canada and TCF Canada. The scale goes from A1 at the bottom, which is a complete beginner, you know, like basic greetings, numbers and colors, all of that, all the way up to C2 at the top, which is mastery level, near native fluency. Now here is what matters specifically if you are learning French for PR in Canada. B1 is the level you need for CLB 5 that unlocks work permit extension and certain immigration pathways. B2 is the level you need for CLB 7, that is the express entry territory. Okay, the French specific draws, the bilingual bonus, permanent residency, all of that happens with CLB 7. And C1, this is where the highest TEF score sits, around CLB 9, 10, 11. So students who clear TEF Canada with that score will make everyone's jaw drop. Okay, they are operating literally at C1 level. Now we are going to test all of the levels from A1 to C2, 36 words, 6 levels and 6 questions. Please make sure to keep your score with you. Do not cheat. Cheating is bad, obviously, and honestly, it's just going to be pointless because this test only helps you if you're honest with yourself. So let's begin. Section 1, Niveau A1, les bases. Question 1 to 6. Level A1 are the building blocks. This is everyday French. If you're a complete beginner, this is where you are. And if you already know these, great. Keep going. So let's start with question number 1. What is the opposite of chaud? Froid, grand, vieux. You have 5 seconds to answer. Perfect. Froid. Chaud means hot. Froid means cold. If someone asks you in Canada, what's the weather like in January? You say, il fait très froid. It is doing very cold. Okay, let's move on to the question number 2. Complete the sentence. Je n'ai pas mangé depuis ce matin. J'ai très soif, faim, sommeil. You have 5 seconds to answer. Faim. J'ai faim means I am hungry. J'ai soif means I am thirsty. J'ai sommeil means I am sleepy. In French, you do not say je suis faim. You always have to make sure that you are saying j'ai faim. You have hunger. Okay, it is small, but it is an important difference. Let's move on to question number 3. La sœur de mon père est ma cousine, tante or niece. You have 5 seconds to respond. Tante. Your father's sister is your aunt. La tante. Cousine is your cousin. Niece is your niece. Family. These are family relatives. Important and basic vocabulary which you need to know. Let's move on to question number 4. Which word means to live somewhere, to reside somewhere? Habiter, aimer, partir. You have 5 seconds to answer. The correct answer is habiter. J'habite à Mississauga. I live in Mississauga. This is one of the first sentences you will ever say in French because this is a very common verb. Habiter. Learn it and keep it in your vocab list. Question 5. What do you wear on your feet? Des gants, des chaussettes, des lunettes. You have 5 seconds to respond. Des chaussettes. Chaussettes are socks. Gants are gloves. You wear those on your hands. Okay. Lunettes are glasses. Question number 6. This is the final question of this level. Je voudrais dash l'addition s'il vous plaît. The options are payer, chercher, prendre. You have 5 seconds to answer. So the correct answer is payer. Je voudrais payer l'addition. Payer means to pay. L'addition means the bill or the receipt or whatever the total amount is which is pending that you have to pay. Now let's move on to section 2. This is where things starts to get interesting. Section 2, niveau A2, la vie quotidienne. Questions 7 to 12. Now section 2 is a level 2, elementary or daily life routine, travel and stuff like that. This is the level where A1 students start to feel the pressure or they do not know a lot of this vocabulary. So let's move on to the next question, which is going to be question number 7. Let's listen to this carefully and read it and answer correctly. La roue est mouillée après la pluie, c'est très doux, glissant, dur. You have 5 seconds to answer. Glissant. Glissant means slippery. When the street is wet and you might fall, it is glissant. Doux means soft or gentle. Dur means hard. Okay, so glissant is a very important verb, useful word for Canadian winters especially. Let's move on to next question, question number 8. What does un loyer mean? Rent, salary, bill. You have 5 seconds. Un loyer is rent. Salary is le salaire. Bill is la facture. So if you're renting an apartment in Canada, you will say mon loyer est de $1,500 par mois. My rent is $1,500 a month. Question number 9. Il est dash de fumer dans les espaces publics au Canada. Obligatoire, interdite, possible. You have 5 seconds. Interdit, forbidden. Smoking is forbidden in public spaces. We use verb interdit, which means banned or forbidden. Obligatoire means mandatory. Possible means possible, so we cannot select that. Interdit is a word that appears constantly in TEF reading passages, which is related to rules, regulations in public life. So specifically in the first 4 sections, so make sure to know this word. Question 10. Which word means to improve something? Améliorer, empirer, oublier. Améliorer, to improve. Empirer means to worsen the things. Oublier means to forget. So please make sure to améliorer your French. That is literally why you are here. Let's go on to question number 11. Which word is the odd one out? Appartement, maison, voiture, studio. 5 seconds. Voiture. Because appartement, maison and studio are all types of housing. Voiture is a car, so it does not belong in that category. Alright, so let's move on to the last question of our A2. What does quotidien mean? Weekly, daily, monthly. 5 seconds. Quotidien means daily. Hebdomadaire means weekly. Mensuel means monthly. Let's go on to section 3, niveau B1, intermédiaire. We will do questions 13 from 18. Now this is where CLB 5 stands, and this is where the most students struggle because the level of language starts increasing. So question number 13, what does postuler mean? To resign, to apply for a job, to hire. You have 5 seconds. To apply for a job is postuler. We say postuler à un poste, which means apply for a position or for a post, for a job. Démissionner means to resign. So if you want to say to resign, that will be démissionner. Hiring someone is embaucher. Embaucher. Okay, in TEF Canada section A, you might also play a role in which you are asking about the job in which these words will come in directly, so make sure to use them. Let's move on to next question, question 14, and I hope you guys are also noting down your mistakes or noting down which options are wrong, because at the end of the day we'll be doing a total and we will see how much you scored out of 36. Let's move on to the next question. Which word is a synonym of difficile? Aisé, ardu, simple. You have 5 seconds. Awesome. So if you selected ardu, you are correct, because aisé means easy. Simple means simple. Alright, so ardu means something which is demanding or difficult. Okay, a B1 student usually uses difficile, okay, but a B2 student will replace it with a little bit more varied vocabulary, so difficile can also be written as ardu. So synonyms like these are what get you a good score in TEF Canada writing or speaking, so make sure to use them as much as possible. Next, let's move on to question number 15. What does néanmoins mean? Therefore, nevertheless, or moreover? You have 5 seconds. Okay, if you selected nevertheless, you are correct. Nevertheless means néanmoins in French. So it is a connector that introduces a contrast. Okay, in English we say nevertheless, but in TEF Canada writing section B, using néanmoins instead of mais will immediately present a higher level to the examiner. So this one word can really lift your writing score, and the more such words you use in writing or even in speaking, the better you will score. Let's move on to question 16. Complete the expression en fin de c'était une bonne décision. Compte, route, journée. You have 5 seconds. Perfect. So if you selected compte, you are correct. En fin de compte means in the end, all things considered. It is a fixed expression. Now you might have said en fin de journée, which you might have selected literally from English to French. At the end of the day, en fin de journée, but that is not correct. In French we have a fixed expression called en fin de compte, which technically means at the end of the day, you know, just the way we say at the end of the day, because at the end of the day is also a metaphorical phrase. You're not literally meaning, you know, at the end of the things. So in French we do not say en fin de journée, we say en fin de compte. Alright, so this is a fixed expression. Make sure to use these fixed expression in your TEF speaking or in your TEF writing, and also you will see them a lot in your TEF reading as well, so make sure to learn them as chunks, not word by word. Let's move on to question 17. Which word means to complain? S'excuser, se taire, se plaindre. You have 5 seconds. Awesome. So se plaindre, which means to complain. S'excuser means to apologize. Se taire means to be quiet. Se plaindre, if a customer is unhappy in TEF section A writing, you will use this verb a lot. Remember it. Question 18. Now this is the final question of our B1. So complete the collocation over here. Dash une décision. In French, which verb will be used? Prendre, faire, avoir. Perfect. So if you selected prendre, you are correct. Because in French, we never say faire une décision. We always say prendre une décision. Faire une décision is a literal translation from English to French. When we say making a decision, I have to make a decision. But in French, we do not say making a decision. We say take a decision. So please make sure to know this. Now let's move on to section 4, which is B2, questions 19 to 24. Now this is where your express entry is opening up and you're getting a higher score if you know this vocabulary. So let's see what do we have. Question 19. Son explication était dash, personne n'a vraiment compris. Claire, précise, ambigue. Ambigue, which is ambiguous, unclear, open to multiple interpretations. So if something is ombig. It does not have one clear meaning. A TEF examiner will use this word to describe writing that is unclear. So ombig is something which is not really clear. You want your essays to be précise, not ombig. Okay, make sure. Question 20. Which word is a formal synonym for riche? Modeste, aisé, pauvre. Aisé means well off or comfortable in life, as in enough money, earning enough money or having enough money. So this is a registered word or a very common word for wealthy. Modeste means modest or humble. Pauvre means poor, which is the opposite. Okay. In TEF writing, when you use aisé instead of riche, that will signal a higher and formal vocabulary range of you. Okay, so make sure to use this. Question 21. Il a dû dash à son projet faute de financement. Poursuivre, renoncer, contribuer. So that will be renoncer. Renoncer means to give up, to renounce something. Renoncer à quelque chose means to, just like giving something up, as I mentioned. Poursuivre means to continue or to pursue something. Contribuer means to contribute. So use renoncer à. It is always followed by a, which is a B2 level verb, which usually appears in TEF Canada listening and reading regularly. You can use it in your writing and speaking as well. Question 22. What does bénévole mean? Employee, volunteer, or intern? 5 seconds. You got this. Un bénévole is a volunteer, someone who works without being paid. Le bénévolat is volunteering. So un bénévole is a volunteer, but le bénévolat is like a volunteering. Now let's move on to question 23. Une personne dash tient toujours ses promesses. Options are indiscrète, indolente, intègre. Intègre, a person of integrity, someone honest, principled and consistent. Indiscrète is indiscreet. Indolente means lazy. Intègre is a word you want to use when describing a trustworthy person. As it is closely related to English, you'll be able to understand what is the meaning, so you can use it. Okay, so let's move on to question 24, which is the last question of B2. So complete the sentence with the most appropriate word. Malgré les efforts du gouvernement, la situation économique continue de dash dans plusieurs régions du pays. So the options are se redresser, se détériorer, s'améliorer. Which one would you choose? 5 seconds. So that will be se détériorer, because malgré means despite. So despite the government efforts, the situation is not getting better, it is getting worse. So redresser and s'améliorer both means to recover or to improve, which contradicts the logic of the sentence. When you see malgré at the start, you know that the result that follows must be negative or unexpected. This is exactly how TEF reading comprehension traps you. The answer is not about the vocabulary alone, it is about understanding the logic of the sentence. Malgré signals contrast, the outcome must go against the effort described. So read the connectors, because that's where the answer lies. So we have section 5, niveau C1, which is avancé, questions 25 to 30. So question 25, what does exacerber mean? To reduce or soften, to resolve, to worsen. So it means to worsen, to make a bad situation even worse. On the other hand, atténuer means to reduce or soften, and to resolve will be translated to résoudre. So exacerber is a C1 level word. Make sure to use it whenever you can. It usually appears in social issues, politics and immigration, exactly the topics which are related to TEF or TCF Canada. Question 26. Face à une situation dash, les autorités ont dû agir rapidement. Ordinaire, commune, inédite. Which one would you choose? It will be inédit, unprecedented. Never, something which is never seen before. You can also use it as a unique in positive situations, but generally it is something which is not ordinary. Okay, whereas ordinaire and commune both means ordinary and common, so this one was easy, not too tough. Okay, which are opposites of inédit, but usually not a lot of people know the word inédit, so this is where you are learning this. So this word is also repetitive in when we are talking about new policies, new laws and extraordinary events. Okay, let's move on to question 27. Les deux parties ont finalement trouvé un dash. Conflit, compromis, malentendu. Compromis, which means a compromise or a middle ground. Okay, so both parties found a middle ground. Conflit is a conflict, which is the opposite of resolution. Malentendu is a misunderstanding. So compromis will be the correct answer over here. Let's go on to question 28. Which word is a synonym for atténuer? Aggraver, ignorer, adoucir. The correct answer is adoucir, which means to soften or to reduce something, to make something more mild. Whereas aggraver means to worsen the things, which is the opposite. Ignorer means to ignore. So adoucir and atténuer are synonyms. Both mean to lessen the intensity of something. Okay, let's move on to question 29. Cette décision est dash. Nous ne pouvons pas l'éviter. Discutable, probable, inévitable. The correct answer is going to be inévitable, which is unavoidable. It cannot be escaped. Discutable, on the other hand, means debatable. Probable means likely but not certain. So inévitable means it will definitely happen. Let's move on to next question. So question number 30, that is going to be the final question of this section. What does désormais mean? Previously, sometimes, from now on. Okay, so the correct answer is from now on, which is désormais. So starting from this moment forward, that is what we have as désormais. Previously or before is said as auparavant, whereas sometimes is written as parfois. So désormais is a time expression that signals a shift, a change that applies going forward. So if you learn these words properly, désormais your French will never be the same. Okay, from now on your French will never be the same. You see how I use that? There we go. Let's move on to the last section, which is niveau c'est de maîtrise, questions 31 to 32. Last section, please make sure to be very careful about this, and at the end we are going to see the total score. And I'll be honest, even some advanced French speakers get this wrong sometimes, because they're looking for very specific words here, words that usually appear in high-level academic texts, literary writing and formal journalism, the kind of French that Le Monde and Le Figaro use on their front page a lot of times. Are you ready? Let's see and let's learn from this. What does éphémère mean? Lasting a very short time, ancient and permanent, extremely powerful. So éphémère means lasting a very short time. It is something which is fleeting. So a sunset is éphémère, youth is éphémère, social media trends are éphémère. The other two options are the opposite. Ancient and permanent suggests something that lasts forever, and powerful has nothing to do with time at all. Okay, so éphémère appears in TEF writing prompts, sometimes about technology, modern life and social change. Learn it and use it. Question 32. Son discours était dash, personne ne comprenait où il voulait en venir. Limpide, décousu, structuré. The correct answer will be décousu, disjointed, rambling. The literal meaning is unsewn, something which is unsewn. So on the other hand, structuré means structured, limpide means crystal clear, so we cannot use those. So we will use décousu, which means ideas that do not connect. Now you know this word exactly how to use, so make sure that your TEF essay is never décousu, otherwise your coherency will suffer. Question 33. Which word means excessive flattery to gain favor? La flatterie, la flagornerie, la franchise. La flagornerie, excessive, insincere flattery of someone. On the other hand, la flatterie is general flattery, not necessarily negative. La franchise is honesty and directness. The opposite, la flagornerie, is a C2 level word. So, la flagornerie is someone who praises others only to get something in return. Let's move on to question 34. What does inexorable, flexible, unstoppable or negotiable? The correct answer will be unstoppable, something which is impossible to stop or alter. Flexible and negotiable are both the opposite, so they cannot be used. Une hausse inexorable des prix de l'immobilier is an example of a phrase which you can use using this word inexorable, or un déclin inexorable. Let's move on to second last question of today, which is question 35. Malgré ses efforts, il n'a pas réussi à dash ses adversaires. Convaincre, circonvenir, contacter. The correct answer will be circonvenir. To outmaneuver or to manipulate someone, to get around them through clever means. Convaincre means to convince, which is more straightforward. Contacter means to contact someone. Last question for today. Let's listen to this carefully. Which word describes something that cannot be taken back or undone? Provisoire, irrévocable, modifiable. So that will be irrévocable, which means irrevocable, final, or something which cannot be reversed. A bit easy because you have already done this in English, but believe me, these are actually C1, C2 level words, because if you would have not studied English, you would never know some of these words. So these are still high level. Whereas provisoire means temporary, modifiable also means changeable. So both are opposite of irrévocable. So a decision that is permanent is technically irrevocable. It is used very commonly in legal and formal French. And this was our 36th question. So let's talk about how much did you score. You can pause the video and find your total score out of 36. And now if you scored between 0 to 6, that means you are at around A1 level, which is you are in the beginning of the journey. So get started today or continue learning and start learning more with depth. If you scored somewhere between 7 to 12, you are at A2, you're still building, and it will take about 3 to 4 months to get to CLB5 with a structurized plan. If you scored between 13 to 18, you are B1 around CLB5 territory. CLB7 is within reach in 3 to 4 more months. If you scored between 19 to 24, close to B2, TEF territory, you will get CLB7 with exam specific training in just few weeks. Now 25 to 30 is C1, which means you have a strong vocabulary, which is CLB9 and above territory. 31 to 36 is C2, mastery level. Your French vocabulary is exceptional. While I say this, please make sure to understand that it is not only this score which determines your level, because apart from this, you also need to have a good hold of how quickly you are able to understand the text and how quickly you are able to perform, how well you are able to perform in all the 4 modules: reading, listening, writing and speaking. So this test was specifically for the vocabulary. So make sure to comment down your score below. I want to see where everyone is, and please be honest, this is only going to help you. And one takeaway is that vocabulary is only one piece of the TEF puzzle, but it is not the only piece. TEF Canada also tests your reading, listening, writing and speaking, and each one needs a specific strategy, not just good vocabulary. And that is exactly what we build inside Frenchify with Vyom, from A1 all the way to TEF ready B2. You will have structured, exam aligned preparation with live sessions dedicated for every level. So if you're serious about starting, I have left the link to our free beginner program in the description, which is unit 1 of full A1 syllabus, which is completely free. So start today. And also you can send a message to me directly on WhatsApp at this number given. Tell me your score from this video and what is your target. Is it CLB5 or CLB7? And I will tell you exactly what your next steps looks like. So désormais, from now on, you have a benchmark. Now go and use it, and make sure to reach out to Frenchify to be able to start your French learning for TA for TCF Canada. Au revoir.